Welcome everybody to another Voice of Nick show. We are going to be messing around in GameMaker again on this one, so let's kind of take a look through some of the stuff that we have. I also want to watch a video and just get some general ideas about how other people code this kind of game, because it's a very established genre. So I'm going to take a look at, I was watching a video for like, it looks like a minute so far, whereas some person was telling me about how to make a clicker game. So let's take a look through here. And once again, with these videos where I'm learning GameMaker, part of the learning process always involves just watching videos or reading things, and that involves consuming other people's content. So what we're about to do right now is watch another person's video. This will not be my video. You could probably tell by the voice. But if you want to support the creator of this video that we're about to watch, the creator is called Tad is Bad on YouTube. You can go check out their channel and watch the video for yourself, or watch their other stuff. So let's see what this is. I also haven't seen the whole video, so I don't know what it's going to be really, but it seemed like it had a general idea of what to do. So let's take a look.
So we're going to add a couple of global variables. So global.money, global.pc, and global.per-second. So we'll set global.money to 0 and PC to 0. PC is per click, money per click. We'll set that to 10. And PS is money per second. And to make the money per second actually happen, we're going to have to set an alarm down here. Alarm 0 equals 60. Now, if you have a room speed of 30, it can be 30, but room speed of 60 is better because everything on the screen looks nice. Alright, so now that we have that, we can make our object called write money. Now, it's got to be visible, but it doesn't have to be persistent. So, in a draw event, drop in a piece of code, draw money. Alright, so draw text. Alright, draw text X, Y, and you don't have to do this, but I like to. So money, it says how much money. And then after that, this is important too, string, parentheses, global.money.
So that's no longer needed in.
So now that that's
as you can probably see, this is an old version of GameMaker, so I don't think you need to write string anymore, and you don't even need to do the plus outside the quotation marks, as we found out.
Now we're going to make our object we click on. So obj box. So we'll take our, that's not a circle, I named it circle. Alright, so it doesn't have to be solid, it's got to be visible. Alright, so in a left pressed event, left pressed, make sure it's left pressed and not left button, because if you hold your mouse and if it's left button, it gives you infinite money. If you can just hold it and it keeps going up. Alright, left press and control. Alright, add money. Alright, global.money plus equals global.pc. So what this is doing is it's taking.
So the global.money is going to go up by the amount that this is set to every time it's clicked.
Our money and adding the value of global.per-click to it. So that's how that does. Alright, now let's make a new room. Room game. It doesn't have to be like this. Alright. So then I'll put in my box.
It's sort
and
of
also,
a
this is important
very profound
too.
statement.
Make sure you have your right money. No, not you. Make sure you have your globals in the room as well. That's important. Alright, so after you have your box, alright, let's test out the game, make sure everything's working properly. Alright, let's see. It's working fine. Alright, so that concludes my first how to make a clicker game tutorial. Thank you all.
I guess we'll go to number 2. It seems pretty concise. So we're not necessarily going to follow this like piece by piece. I'm more interested to see what the process is. So we're just going to watch a few of these and sort of get an idea of what this person is, how they're approaching it, and we'll come up with our own actual, you know, strategy with this in mind. But I'm not going to follow this like a paint by numbers, because I think that if you do that kind of thing, it's really not good for learning. It just means you know how to take instructions, or you know how to put together an IKEA cabinet, but it doesn't mean that you know what it doesn't mean you really truly learned and internalized what the person said. So we'll just keep watching this. Once again, this is another video. It's not my video. This is Tad is Bad on YouTube, so make sure you go check out their channel if you want to support them and see the content that they've made. They seem like they're pretty good at explaining these ideas.
Everybody, my name is Tad is Bad 225, and I'm starting where I left off with my how to make a clicker tutorial. Okay, so one thing to make the game look nicer is that we're going to go to whatever operating system you're using. I'm using Windows. Graphics, and uncheck interpolate colors between pixels, because that makes everything blurry. And I'll just rearrange some things over here. Okay, let's put this closer. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make the store. Alright, so we're going to need a store sprite, so SPR store. Okay, so let's just make a button. Doesn't have to be fancy. Alright. Wait, where's my font? Here you go. A little bit bigger.
Is that a Windows font?
Right. So that's the store button. So now we're going to create an object called...
What was that font? Terminal? I don't think I've ever seen that. That might be a different... Yeah, that must be a downloaded font. I'll have to look into it. It's a nice font.
Store. And we'll select that sprite. Alright. So we're going to add an event. Left press and add in a code. Next. As I said in the last video, you don't have to do this right here. I just like to do it because it helps.
So he's switching rooms?
Okay, so what you're going to type in is...
Why would he need to switch the room?
Go to next. And that sends you to the next room. Alright, so let's make a new room. Let's duplicate this one. And call it store. And you can get rid of that. And you also get rid of the global
I guess if the store is an entire screen.
I'll put the money up in the corner. Okay. So in our game, we're going to need to put in the store button. Alright, right down here. And we're also going to need a back button, so let's duplicate this.
Our game would probably not have the store be on a different screen. It'd probably be within the existing game.
Oh wait, I forgot to type back. Alright. And I spelled it wrong.
Put in there.
Okay, so now that we have our back button, we can...
Alright, let's do a little speed up here.
Back. Alright, so when left pressed, we can go last. So room, go to videos. Don't forget the videos. Alright, so now that we have that set up, we can go to our store and put the back button in. Put it right over here. Alrighty. Okay, now we gotta make some things to buy, so we'll go SPR store button 1. Make a new button. Alright. Alright, okay, so I'll just make it PS plus 5. Make it smaller font. It costs, alright, $500. That's good. Alright, now let's add in a new object. Shut up, phone! What do you want? Nothing. Alright, so new object called store button 1. So we'll get that in here. And we're going to add in a left press event and add in a code add PS. So this is important. So if global.money is bigger than or equal to 500, then global.ps plus equals 5. And global.money minus equals 500. Alright, so let's give that a shot. Put it in the store.
I suppose that's correct, because it would set the per second to be 5 more than it is every time you're able to purchase this. The difference is that when we do it, this would be a variable, the number. I assume this is just for tutorial purposes, the way that they're doing it here, but this would be a variable because it would go up in price every time you purchased it by like 15% or something.
All right, now let's test this out.
Otherwise, you'd just be able to buy faster and
let's
faster.
get $500 real quick. Alright, there. Store. PS plus 500. Excuse me, are you working? I don't think it's working. Can you fix that? Alright, globals, create. PS equals 0 alarm. Oh, okay. I know what I did wrong. We forgot to add in the alarm. So we put in the alarm, add in a code, add money. Alright, so global dot money plus equals money or global dot PS. Alright. So now, oh wait, we gotta set the alarm.
Add the per second amount to the global money. Why would that happen over the alarm, though? Oh, wait, no, that's correct, because it's per second, and this is set for 60 frames, which is 1 second.
0 equals 60. Now, where did I put that alarm event? Did I put it in the box? No, was it in the right money? No, yeah, it was there. Alright, what? Okay, let's test it now. I'm sorry, I'm not good at this. Alright, let's see.
Not good at this, they're doing a great job.
Real quick. And go to the store, PS plus 5, and as you can see, it's going up. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how to get more per click. So we go SPR.
This is like about as concise as it gets. I don't know why they said they're not good at making these. This is really good.
Per click plus cost 100. Alright, now let's put that down. Oops.
So it costs 500 to get plus 5, but 100 to get plus 10. That's a pretty good deal. If
per
click. Okay.
Is greater than or equal to 500, no, 100. Then global.money minus equals 100. Then global.per click plus equals 10. Alright, now let's give that a shot. Let's go into the store first. Let's set this right. Alright, fix that. Okay, now let's go into the store and set
And the reason we want this to be global is because well, it's not actually it's a global variable, but it's also just an object called global. So it really doesn't have to be necessarily a global variable. It's just the idea is that this thing, we're always referencing that thing. Is there a way to make a variable that doesn't need to have the reference every single time, though? Maybe if it was in a script? It just seems like it'd be really annoying to have to write that every time.
All right, now let's do that. All right, let's test again.
Maybe if we just made it really short, like Ocon or something.
And 100, purchase. Yeah, as you can see, I now get 20 per click. So let's just buy that to make sure. Yeah, it's working perfect. So that's how you make a clicker game. I'm going to go through this again in future videos and show you how to add in more detail.
Jeez. That was very concise. I don't think they actually made any more videos, though, on this subject. Let's see. Oh, they're still uploading. Always good to see that. Although this doesn't seem like the same thing, same type of content. This is from 7 years ago, so let's copy paste this and see if they've made any other. No, there's only 2 of them, but I think this is enough to get us to the point that we want to get to. So good. So how did we come up with it? Let's take a look. We had something where you're tracking the mouse clicks, and you're tracking that separately from the total amount of clicks, which was in one giant equation. But it makes more sense that what is actually happening is you're just changing either the per second amount or the per click amount, and really no other variables. So let's say this. We're gonna make a new one. So let's call it like Clicker Idea Project version 2. let's get rid of this. Good. So how big do we want the game to be? I liked the size that we had before, so it was 960 by 540. That was a pretty good size. I still don't really feel very confident with making a game that could go full screen. It seems like there's too many sort of question marks about that. This game would not really be the kind of game you'd play in full screen anyway, though. If anything, it would be the kind of game you play in a tall screen. But I don't think that for this one I'm gonna make it like mobile friendly. I just don't, it's a whole nother world, and I also don't think I have the rights to make a mobile game. Oh, I do. I can make an, well, actually, if I made an HTML5 game, that would work on mobile anyway, I think. Well, we'll make the bones of the game first, and we'll worry about that after. Okay, it looks like there are different aspects involving this. Well, we can look into that, I guess. What we're gonna do for now is let's try this person's idea of having like a, let's call it O game, or actually O controller, because it's gonna be about that it's controlling the various ideas. So I guess that's not right. I don't know what the currency is yet. I had written some notes. Let's take a look at the notes. Okay, so there's three things I had ideas for. It's either that you're clicking to make or lay bricks, or you are collecting florins, which is a currency from Florence in the Renaissance, or it is about accumulating manpower. And I'll tell you about why it may be one of those things later. We're not worrying about the game concept right now yet. We're just trying to figure out if we can even make the game in general. I think we can, though. So florins equals 0. Let's say florins is going to be what it is. Let's say florins per second equals 0. And florins per click equals 1. So if you click once, you acquire 1 florin, which is a, what did a florin actually look like? Oh, it actually has, oh, there is, florins is still in use in Aruba, apparently. That can't be the same type of florin, though. A florin was from Florence, a Florentine florin, a gold coin struck from 1252 to 1533. Okay, looks like that. It had 54 grains of nominally pure or fine gold, with a purchasing power difficult to estimate and variable, but ranging according to social grouping and perspective from approximately 140 to 1,000 modern US dollars. Okay. So we might have to lower the thing. So what were the other things you could get? A soldo, I recognize that. Denaro? What were the other... Soldo was an Italian medieval silver coin. It was 1/20th of a lira. When was it in use? This matches the era that we're going for either way. A lira and 12 denarii. So denarii is lower than a soldo. I think the plural is soldi. Okay, 14th century Florence. So a lira was 20 times as much as a soldo. I feel like you should be collecting something a little bit more worth. So how many lira was in a florin then? This is all conceptual stuff. It doesn't really matter. I'll have to look it up later. Okay. At the time, the value of a florin was equal to the lira, but by 1500 it had appreciated 7 lira to 1 florin. What about a soldo? Doesn't have anything about that. Okay, that's enough about that. We're going with florins then. And I'll explain why when we talk about the concept of the project, but again, it's not time to do that yet. This is also going to be set to Windows. Oops. So this would go in here. Now let's make a thing that we would click on. So we'll just make a temp thing. Quick thing. And this would be some color. And we'll just make it even bigger than it is here. And we'll put this in. Oops, we need to make it an object. Doesn't matter what it is right now. So let's put that there. So there's a lot of question marks about how the game functions, but I think that I was very happy with how the concept art phase worked for us last time. I think that allowed us to have a really pretty cohesive art style with the Homer game. So I think we'll figure a lot of this mechanics out in concept art for this one as well. So this click thing, we're going to say that if you click it, Ocon, okay. dot florins plus equals ocon dot florins PC. And I think that is all you need to run the game for now. Oh, well, we also want to just display that goes up. Okay, now that's good. Now, what else do we have to figure out here? We don't have to keep track. So on the previous game, I thought about it as you want to keep track of the total number of clicks that have happened, or the total number of florins accumulated, even if you've spent some. But that's actually not necessary because it's only really, in terms of leveling up in the game, it's only tracking how, I would do it anyway because it's an interesting stat, but in terms of like gameplay stuff, it would only be necessary to keep track of what they have now, because you'd never, it doesn't matter if you spent 1,000 and now you have 2 and the threshold is to get to 1,002. If now you have 2 coins, it wouldn't make sense if then you could buy the next thing. You have to buy the coins when you have 1,002 or whatever, 1,200 or something, whatever the number is. So that simplifies the way the mechanic actually works. And so this would just be a thing that we alter as we buy different items. So I had an idea for another thing. So first, before we think about this, let's just make another one of these. Click upgrade per click and upgrade per second. So let's do one for per second first, I guess. We'll make these different colors. There's not a lot of like tame colors that aren't like fully bright. Upgrade. One florin per second. Oh, well. All right. Don't anti-alias. What's going on here? That's better. And we'll say that this, oh, you know what? We gotta do this one more time. We have to add a layer. We could all do this all in one layer too. Well, let's say that it costs 5. We don't want to waste a bunch of time here. So let's make this also a better high contrast color. So that's that. Now we're going to say that let's make this a different thing. So we're gonna say O upgrade spawner. Make a step event. We're gonna say if ocon dot orange. And we're also gonna have a master sheet of just the values, and that would probably be in a script. So yeah, this would probably be a macro. This is incorrect because you can't change a macro, so this is wrong. Would actually the upgrade spawner would have a create event that has all these values, I guess. And the way that that works is we wouldn't actually have to figure out what they all are. We just have to figure out what the first one is and then what the percentage increase is. So let's say this. Initial values is all you need to figure out. So, and these would all have names or whatever, but this would be called whatever. This would be 5. And we'd probably say this. I don't know if I would name it after what it is or what it does, but whatever. So there's this, and then you would say if ocon florins is greater than or equal to UG bricklayer. So this is where it doesn't explain what to do in the tutorial, but I think we can figure it out. So it'd basically say instance create layer, and it's going to create the thing we haven't made yet. So this does not do this. This would say if left pressed, then ocon dot florins per second plus equals 1. And then it's going to instance destroy itself. And for this, you want to create a layer of otemp click upgrade. And it has to be at, 0, whatever. Let's say it's at room width. Oh, it's not going to autocorrect if you divided by 8, comma, room height divided by 2, comma. So it's going to make this. Currently, it's going to make that 60 times every single second, and the game will eventually crash because it has a million of these things spawning. So we have to have a timer. So let's actually put that like down below. UG timer is 1. So if this is bigger than this and upgrade timer is greater than 0, then do this. UG timer goes down. So then instantly, once it hits 0, it will stop going down, which is also good. And then we have to also have a thing that says this. This we're going to put somewhere else. You have to say if instance does not exist of this. So we're going to do that and say otemp click upgrade PS. Now, I don't know if that's going to be necessary because we might have all these sitting in the game and they'll just turn on, you know, like become visible rather, but we'll see. So if instance does not exist of this and this upgrade is greater than 0, then do this, else UG timer is equal to 1. This is just because I don't really like using alarms. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that I need to use a whole nother thing rather than just leave it all in here. But we'll use them if we have to. But this should work. It's basically saying if the number is greater than or equal to this, which is the minimum number to purchase the thing, then if it doesn't already have one of these upgrade things sitting there, and the upgrade timer, it should say greater than 0. Instance create layer of this thing. Subtract the upgrade timer. So 1 frame after it has spawned this, it will no longer spawn it. And then set the timer back to 1. And we'll also destroy. This is another instance where we're not really going to destroy it, but for now we will. Okay, so that didn't work. Why not? That is because, what are we in? Upgrade spawner, but we do not have that in the room. I think I always forget that. Whoa, so this is obviously not right, but if we click it, it also doesn't work. So something's going on with that. This doesn't have anything saying about what it should do, so that means that the problem exists in here. If the number is greater than this, which is 5, if there is no instance of this and the timer is greater than 0, so once there becomes a single instance of it, I see what the problem is. The problem is, first of all, you don't need to destroy this here. It's destroying itself and spawning itself because the timer keeps going down. You destroy it when you click it, but that also does not function. Why? So if it doesn't exist and the timer is greater than 0, which it is, create the layer, the thing at that layer, subtract 1 from the timer so it doesn't spawn any more of these. Otherwise, set the timer to 1 so it's not going to spawn. It'll be able to spawn something else if it had to. I'm actually going to set this to be here. It can't be in the thing where you purchase the thing. It can't set it once you've purchased that, because if there's more than one thing to purchase, that won't work. But if it sets it to 1 and it goes down the list, it will then be 0 again. Okay, so that spawned. What we want to check too is an instance count. And this will be room height divided by 5. And this will be y. Variable instances? Why does it think that's a variable? Okay. This is a string. It knows it's a string. Ah, that's why we put it ocon dot and we didn't finish this. So what is this? Oh, this doesn't need to be there actually. There you go. There's 3 instances, now there's 4, but it does not change the number of instances. That's good. Now, what happens when you click this? You press the left mouse button on this thing. It is going to change the per second count by 1, which does not currently do anything. It just sets the value, and it destroys itself, which also does not seem to do anything. Okay, so let's take this out of here. We'll put it in a step event because I don't trust these like proprietary commands that they have where it's like left pressed or whatever. It's convenient, but it doesn't always work the way I want. And it has to say, you know, if that's colliding with the object or whatever, but for now we'll just say that. And this should mean that it's going to destroy itself, but it does not do that. The collision mask is the entirety of this thing. So let's put this back in. Before we figure out all this stuff, it would be very convenient if we could use their proprietary thing. So let's try and get that to work. We'll put this back for now. What if we just said instance destroy? If you press the left mouse button, it will destroy. Now, I think I know why it's not destroying, and that's because it is destroying, but it is recreating it the same instant that you click it. Now, how would we combat that? Now, here's the thing. Do you need it to be destroyed, or do you just need it to be... So let's just add this. We'll put a thing into ocon or something about this counter. Is greater than 0. And subtract this. Else set it back to 60. I feel like, don't we still need a thing that calculates the per second amount has to add, and the per click amount has to affect the original score? So you would need a thing that says florins per second plus florins per click. This is now going up all the time. Is this what did it? Right, because that, yeah, that is correct. This has still not done anything. That works. Let's also change this to be time counter. That's all it really is. So this functions. If you click this, it changes the per second amount. So going back to our thing of just making a million debug visuals. It's probably the fastest way to just find out what's wrong. So let's call this 470. PS should be set to 0. Do this, set to 1, but it does not change this. Right, and that is because of that flawed code that we had. So let's take another look at this one.
Alright, so now that we buy, so
How did they write
what do you want?
this for the per second?
Nothing. In here. And dot money is bigger than or equal to 500. Then global dot put the in the store. Alright. And let's get $500 real quick. Alright there. Store. PS plus 500. Excuse me, are you working? I don't think it's working. Can I fix that? Alright, globals create PS equals 0 alarm. Oh, okay. I know what I did wrong. We forgot to add in the alarm. So we put in the alarm, add in a code, add money. Alright, so global dot
It's probably at the end of every second. The check for every second is gonna check for the, it's not an equation that says all of this, which is totally unnecessary. It would just say that at the end of the second, let's put an actual bracket here. At the end of the second, it would say add now it goes up. Okay. Now we're playing the game. Now it goes up by a lot. It's going up by 8. Now it's going up by 9. Now it's going up by 14. So the problem is that it lets us click it more than once. And that is because when we click the thing, it should also subtract the amount of money that it costs, which is a constantly changing value. So that is in the upgrade spawner. Let's just call this O upgrades. Okay, this all seems pretty easy. Get rid of that. Don't need this to destroy anymore. We'll figure that out how that displays later. It's not going to be a destroy. It'll probably be like that it turns into a silhouette until it's usable again or something. Ocon.Florence minus equals O upgrades dot G bricklayer. So now we have 6 things, 0 per second. We add this, we go down, but it starts going up per second. Now if we have another 5, we can buy it again. Oh, so it still lets us do it even if we have that. So it checks for whether or not we have enough for the button to show up, but it doesn't check whether or not we have enough to actually do this left mouse button click. So what we now need to do is say the same thing that's actually in here. We could just it's in the upgrade screen. This same code would work on here and every instance of an upgrade. And eventually, I think it's going to be that the upgrades are always visible, or at least, well, maybe not. Either way, this will figure it out for us. So now it'll only let us press the button if we have enough to press it. Nope. that is because we didn't change this. Oops, I clicked something. Buy another one, and now we cannot click it again until we have the amount that it costs, and now it's going to be like every second we have enough to buy it. And so now it goes up by that. Okay, I guess we'll make one more thing, which is just the per click, and other than that, that's pretty much every mechanic in the game. These kind of games are not very complicated. I wanted to do something that's a little bit less complicated than the Homer game as my next project. Because the next thing that I really want to work on is the Homer game, like an upgraded version of the Homer game, but oh, I see what I did. Get rid of these changes. I want to do an upgraded version of the Homer game, but I want to wait until the game jam is done, because there's been so many great suggestions from the game jam that I want to start working on the new version of the game once all of the feedback has come in and all the suggestions have come in. So it would be counterintuitive to do it now, and then somebody comes up with a great idea and I have to like redo everything to accommodate that. So say per click plus equals 1, and we'll also change what this says. So the way that works, we would just have to redo this. It would say +1 florin per click. Cost 10. I don't know what the tuning of this is going to be. Oops. We did that wrong because we have to do that on a different layer. Good. Now the upgrades thing is just going to have a value for some other thing. So let's say I had a big list of things it could be. It doesn't matter what it could be anything. Let's say that it's a UG blacksmith. And it should probably say initial, and this would say 5, 10. So it's saying like the initial price and the initial thing that it does. This is going to say +1 florin per click. I guess this would also be +1 florin per second, but I didn't think that through. So that's that. And then we would write the same exact code, but we would say UG blacksmith. And we would create this new thing. So PC. That's the same. You wouldn't be able to create two of the same, or hypothetically, if you could click twice in one frame, it wouldn't work. If you clicked twice in two different upgrades in the same frame, but I don't think any human being could do that. They could probably click the same spot possibly twice in one frame if they're really fast, but they couldn't click two different spots in the same frame. So it's not a problem we have to think about, is what I'm trying to say. So we would make this, and then we would say for this, this is now UG blacksmith. Changes per click. Does this do per click? No, per second. And now we'll just put another indicator on the draw GUI that says how many per click you get. And let's actually start making these legible. So it would say per second. This would say per click. Okay. I'm sure I forgot a thing somewhere. Oh, these are in the same spot. For 40. So now there's two buttons. Let's say we clicked on that. Now that has changed both values. Why? I don't know the answer to that. Oh, that's why. This needs to count for, it wasn't changing both values, it was just showing the same value in two different spots. So you get 1 per click, because obviously if you click the thing once, you would get 1 point. You do this, you get 1 per second. That is now true. We'd also need to add a debug thing for, let's put in some debug stuff. We have that. Good. This now goes up by a second, or by 1 per second. That's correct. And we can keep getting that, and it'll upgrade it more. That's good. Restart it. Per click. So now every click it should give 2, and it does. That's the whole game. Now it's just a matter of coming up with other things to add and all that stuff. There's also one more variable, which is that the price of the thing would go up. So this is not dynamic, so it's still going to say 5, but let's see if we can change what the price is. So the way that would work is in O upgrades. Actually, it would be per item. So basically, I think actually that there would be, we could do this with a really complicated set of we could have a controller for all clickable objects, or all upgrade objects rather, because they really all do the same thing. It would be ocon.florins if it's greater than equal to O upgrades dot, this object's user ID or whatever. Then ocon.florins, fill in the blank plus equals fill in the blank, and ocon.florins minus equals O upgrades dot this user ID's price. So that we could actually make a generic thing that we don't have to put this in every single thing, and that would then make it so that we could, if we have like 10,000 upgradable items, and we wanted to change one, we wouldn't have to change anything. But for now, we'll do this. Let's put a note. Better workflow ideas. Okay, so we'll do that later. But for now, what we want is to say if it is this, and then you're also going to change, after you have subtracted the amount, you're going to say, oh, upgrades dot UG blacksmith, and this would say UG blacksmith's price actually, is now equal to this times 1.15 or something. And we'll say it's, you know, I don't know if it's round, because round would send it to a particular number. Let's just say round for now. The numbers are so small, I don't think it's going to be noticeable for a couple times, but let's just say that, and do that for this too. This is UG bricklayer. And you could probably start to guess what kind of a game we're making, or rather what the theme is of the game. Well, I'll leave it mysterious for a minute. So now the price of this, if we're going to buy it again, it's at 17. It is now at 12, so it was 5. So if it's at 20, it goes to 13. So now it was 7. 22, it goes down to 14, so it was 7. 26 goes down to 17, so that means it was 9. So it is going up in price. It's kind of hard to keep track of this because of the way that the thing is always moving. Let's change it to florins per click. So this is 16. It cost us 10. Now we have enough to buy another one. It's 30. It cost us 12. So it worked. And that is the mechanic of the game. So we now know how to do the clicks. We know how to make objects show up in the store when you have enough money to buy them. We know how to make things go up per second, and we know how to make things go up per click. And that is really all we need to figure out. So the idea for the game is basically one of those games that we would make. But I want to do a game like that, which is based around the building project in Renaissance Italy of the dome of Santa Maria Cathedral in Florence. So for anybody who's not familiar with this historical concept, it's like kind of like a gravity defying, is like the puzzle of the age, and it was a very difficult thing to figure out how to build this gigantic dome and have it actually not fall apart and work. And this kind of guy who really was like way ahead of his time in terms of figuring out architectural problems came in and created this really incredible thing. I recently visited Florence and was really inspired by this dome and also of the whole cathedral. And I also, just having visited Florence, read a book about it afterwards and really enjoyed that. And I'll show what the book is too, I guess, because it's a great book. It's called Brunelleschi's Dome, which I highly recommend to anybody who's interested. So yeah, you can find this here on Amazon. There's an audiobook. There's, you know, all versions of the book, but it's about the building of this dome. And it's a very fascinating process. And he had to invent, just like Michelangelo with inventing a lot of the mechanical things around even getting ready to do Sistine Chapel or the Statue of David or whatever. This guy, Brunelleschi, also had to invent a lot of technology that just allowed the people to be able to put things on the dome, or like to get the blocks up to the top of the dome, or do this and, you know, if make this more efficient, make that more efficient. And so reading the book, I was starting to say, like, well, this kind of feels like one of those clicker games where he's like, every time he makes it more efficient, it's building faster, you know. And so I was like, well, I think this would be really interesting, kind of like how Young Homer is like kind of an educational game. I think it would be interesting to do a clicker game that is based in history. So in an actual historical feat and the building of a real project. So I think that would be fun. I don't really know what the art style is going to look like. I figure the game is going to be that we're not going to use a real, copyrighted photograph of this thing, but we're going to draw something ourselves or get Midjourney to do it maybe. But it would basically be like that you're looking at this the whole time. So imagine that the screen of the game is probably, more or less this picture, but the dome is under construction. And, so maybe it would start here and there would be like a little bit of scaffolding here and you keep clicking, keep clicking, keep clicking. And my idea is that I would create a few different sprites, maybe like a dozen of them that in different layers that as you reach certain thresholds of clicks, the thing will actually get a little bit taller and more bricks will get laid and more scaffolding goes up and stuff like that. And then I figure that UI wise, you could probably have one thing that would be really interesting that I don't know if I can know how to do, but it would be cool if there was like a day-night cycle, because like real time is passing as you're trying to build this thing. Years are going by. I think it took like 14 years for them to build this dome. So we could really mess around with like time going by and weather showing up. And I had an idea about disasters, like Sim City type of disasters, which don't really happen in those types of clicker games, but I think it could be a fun little twist. Florence has at least once been flooded by the Arno River, and that causes like destruction, and there's been earthquakes and lightning storms that damage the dome even while it was being made, that caused problems, and things like that like could happen, and then you'd have to like deal with that as you go. And I don't know what that mechanic is, because the fun of these games is kind of that you never make negative progress, you always just keep getting better. So that would kind of affect that, but maybe there would be some interesting way to address that problem. I just think it would be cool to have one of these games where it's not you sort of have to like watch yourself because it might get damaged. And maybe there'd be like a mechanic where you could, like in Jurassic World Evolution, where you can upgrade the facilities in the event of a disaster. So you're kind of like paying for something you don't have an immediate benefit from, but if there was a disaster, you'd have less damage or something like that. But yeah, it's a pretty simple idea. It's kind of not like a reskin of this type of thing, but like a game like this that tells a historical story, kind of like how Young Homer is pretty much just a dating simulator with a lot of different coats of paint added to it. If you really break it down to its mechanics, Young Homer is just one of those dating simulators where you choose, like, do I work out at the gym? Do I practice my charisma? Do I practice this? And then you go on dates. Like, it's that. Young Homer is that, but with you're now building a deck, and you're instead of going on dates, but it's pretty much the same thing. This would be a clicker mixed with some kind of sort of like a city builder aspect. So I would love to build that, and I thought that it would be really funny if the game, because the point of these clicker games is that they don't really end. I thought it'd be funny if once you build the dome, then he says like, "What should I do now?" And he's like, "I'll make a bigger dome." And then he like starts working on a second dome that like encapsulates the first. And then if you finish that one, it like makes another one that is like going off the screen, and that could extrapolate as many times as you want, I guess, to like it would zoom out to see like the entire city, or like the entire like series of territories that we now know as Italy, which was not a unified nation at the time, but like it would keep getting bigger until like you could see it from space or something. I don't know if I would end up doing that, but I think that'd be really funny. But and then obviously the years are still going by, so eventually it would go into like the modern era, and like he's still somehow alive and building this dome, and then goes into the future or something. But yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work, but I just think it would be cool if we start with a very simple concept of let's make a clicker where you're building this dome. And I would like to explore the because every game that we work on, we want to try and learn something from it and learn something from the process. And I think what this would really be give us some fascinating insight about, because clicker games are already figured out. People know how to make those. Ours would not, the clicker aspects of it would not be very different from any other game like that. But what I think would be really interesting is figuring out a cool way to procedurally build this thing visually on screen as you proceed through the game. And I think it would be also, I was thinking about having like little like circles or something like that, you know, like a zoomed in, like it, as if you see like a magnifying glass, and it's showing like a little guy who's like click, you know, he hammers every time you click or something. And then you could have another circle could pop up that's showing like oxen that spin around the, you know, the beasts of burden that are powering like the wheels of some kind of like crank, which Brunelleschi really used like oxen to power cranks and stuff. And every time you get like the plus per second, they would start like going faster or whatever until they're just going like you know, at an inconceivable speed. So like there is kind of like a fun to the mechanics when you apply this type of thing. Most clicker games are very abstracted, and having this apply to actual history would give us, just like with Young Homer, give us an opportunity for that history to then clash with gameplay mechanics in a way that makes it kind of funny. So yeah, that's the basic idea. And I don't think we're ready. Well, I guess we're kind of ready to concept design it now. So the next thing we could do, now that we have a game that functions, we would like even figuring out what the different, you know, upgrade costs and stuff is, like we could still just start concept designing what you're buying. You know, I assume the first thing you're buying is like more people to work on the dome, and then you're buying probably like whatever, like better hammers for them. You're buying, you know, like that could be like one of the upgrades is like per click, and then the next thing you're buying is like whatever, like cranes or something, and then you're buying like beasts of burden that can power the cranes, and then you're getting another thing. And you know, Brunelleschi also built this like crazy like mega yacht thing that would carry marble across the Arno, which eventually crashed and cost him a lot of money. But in our game, it could be that, you know, I was thinking you could see the Arno River somewhere, which I don't even know where that is in relation to. It's obviously not in the middle. I don't know, but anyway, we could have the Arno River show up, and you could see all the boats that are on there or something that we've created. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got. That's the idea for now, and we'll expand on that as we go. So that'll do it for this one. The game mechanics are functioning. This is pretty much the equivalent of the Young Homer episode where we had the cards looking really ugly and they were like in the corner of the screen. It was just bare text, but we knew that we could draw the cards. We knew that we could generate what they looked like. We knew that we could make sure the descriptions matched what card we were looking at. Like there's a lot of things you need to figure out just to know that you can make the game. And then once you know that, then you can start worrying about how is this game presented. And I think that this game is so simple that we can already move to that step. So let's worry about that next, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining the show. Bye-bye.